Hello and welcome back. This is part 2 of the WordPress theming tutorial series. I'm Chris and this tutorial is for wptutorial.info and CreativeCreed.com. In the previous part we installed MAMP, we installed WordPress, and we created the necessary framework for our theming operations, as well as modifying our CSS files so that WordPress can use it. Now we want to go ahead and create our WordPress, our very basic WordPress, from our existing HTML. So open your HTML file, and in my case this is this. If you preview it in Safari, it looks a little bit like this, with this as a menu, and this is a secondary menu, and we see the sample headline, and yeah, that's that. And the CSS necessary to do that, we already translated that, and we have it over here with our WordPress compatible header. And now we want to go ahead and open our index.php. Well, so far this is a HTML boilerplate code, and we can go ahead and remove that. I prepared for you this. This is our standard index file boilerplate code for WordPress, and you will be able to download or copy and paste it from CreativeCreed.com or wptutorial.info. So we're going to go ahead and paste that into our PHP index file, and as you can see, it starts out with several function calls and some commenting here, and we want to go ahead and put our theme name into it, and for me it'll be WordPress tutorial, WP tutorial, and this is the function call that gets the header file. Then we have a function call that gets the sidebar, and the function call that gets the footer. Now you don't necessarily have to have these calls, but this is the standard. You can add more and you can throw some out. However, if you throw some out and if you throw some in, you have to be careful over the call order, because you don't want to open another sidebar after you got the footer, because in the standard case the footer has the closing HTML body and the closing HTML tag. So whatever we would do here would already be after we already closed our code. And also, if we get rid of the footer like this, if we get rid of the footer call, then nothing closes our page. So if we change something about it, which we can, then we want to make sure that all the necessary or required steps are still being done. Let's get that back in here. And okay, so this is everything that we need to get the basic framework going. Now we will transfer the existing HTML structure out of our HTML file to create the structure for our content. I like certain things to be in my header file, and for me that is the menu and well, all the necessary header information, as much as any headlines or banners that I might have. Into the content area I would put everything else except for stuff that I would put in the footer and of course in the sidebar. In this case I have a content wrapper, I have headlines, I have a content div, an end line div, the content wrapper closes, then I have a secondary navigation, and in this case I do want the secondary navigation in my content area. So in this case this also goes into the index.php. Okay, now we want to remove all the unnecessary information, which is basically the content that we have in there. We want to remove it. Of course, if you have real content in there, you want to make sure that you copy it to somewhere where you can actually use it still, but we want to get rid of it. So we want to get rid of that and also that. So now we want to go ahead and create the loop, and a standard loop I have for you right here. The standard loop is what gets the posts for you and fills them in. Basically it gets the content for you, so it's gonna check if there's any posts, and while it does have posts, it executes the post, which Then ready is basically the content, and then it's up to you to put the content in. And in this example, I'm doing this with the title and the content, okay? And then if there is no content, then we say, okay, we don't have any content, nothing to see, and then we end the if. So let's get the necessary parts out of here that we need, because we don't like typing. Yeah, so if we can save some, then we will. So where do we need this? Well, in this case, the content wrap goes on the outside. This begins here. We copy the title, and title will be in our headline. We copy the content, and the content, surprise, surprise, will be in our content class. And you want to go ahead and make sure that all of those divs or whatever you might be using are classes, because they will be used multiple times, as this is a loop and it enters things multiple times, and we want to try to be conform with our HTML, and for things that appear multiple times in a on a website, we want to use classes and not IDs. So if you see me use an ID and it'll end up working, then don't be surprised that it does. Just know that it's not how you're supposed to do it. So, and in the end line, we will insert stuff later. For now, this is enough information. However, we still need to copy this and go under our end line, hit Command V, and well, we don't need the H4 tags really. They don't do anything for functionality. However, we do need the end if, so copy and paste that one last time, and we're done with that. So what we did now is we created a loop, and if we properly indent, then we also see what it does. This loop, while it has posts, if it has posts, enters the title of the post into our headline segment, the content into our content segment, and then later it'll be entering something into the end line segment. Then if it does not, it'll say nothing to see and be done with it. And all that happens in our content wrap, but only posts all of the other elements if there actually is content to post. So if there's nothing, our website will be looking pretty empty. And as for our secondary navigation, we can go ahead and Google WordPress nav menu, and there we come to the most helpful page of all of them that you should know and use, which is the WordPress codex, codex.wordpress.org, and it'll tell us, oh, there's this function, it's WP nav menu, and it displays a navigation menu created in appearance menus panel. How do we use this? It has examples for that. So copy this and enter it as our secondary navigation, and change the specific menu here to the depth, and a depth of 1. The way this will work is it'll give us back a non-formatted menu in a unordered list style, and that is what I created my HTML for. So we can copy this and save it for our header file, because we're going to use it there again, just differently. And now we can save this and open the header file. And again, I prepared a little basic header for you. Enter it here, copy paste, and again, your theme name is required. Again, for me, WP tutorial. And then you have to modify the structure to what is necessary for your website to work. So we see that this already informs WordPress about the style sheet location. Then there is the attempt to give your body a class and an ID. We can do that. We don't have to. Then it'll throw out the blog info, which is basically your blog name, which you can leave it there. You can kick it out, whatever you want. And then there's the menu. That is what I think is probably best to start out with a header. Then you want to go ahead and pick up the stuff out of your HTML and copy it over into your header file. We're gonna insert it below everything at first and then move it into place. So there we go. Well, we don't need any of this because we already have it. You might have secondary style sheet, you might have image files or scripts or other things that you link. You can just use the blog info style sheet directory and append the path up in the header if you wish, and change it. Now we want to move the diffs in place. I know that this belongs here, and I know that that goes right under it. And then we have the head wrap, which wraps around the title of the blog in my case, and the title is in H1 tags as most prominent part of it. And then it looks a little bit like this. We want to go ahead and indent that, and one more time, there we go. And then we have our menu, and our menu is after the header is closed in this case, and our menu is within the div menu. And you're going to see that we don't need any of this. We don't need the unordered list tags. We don't need that. It'll work just fine with just that. So now we can go ahead and save the header. Then we want to go ahead and open the footer.